Amy, you have this really lovely line in the documentary where you say you just love watching time unfold. And I'm curious for both of you now, looking back on this project, what is it like to watch so many years unfold in the span of an hour and a half?
Well, it's an absolute privilege to have this documented, even just for us.
Mhm.
If the world wasn't ever even seeing this film, it's honestly as an archivist, it's a beautiful testament to our family and to our home, and uh, it's like it's our own personal scrapbook that we're sharing with the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know for myself watching it through all of the different versions we have and watching it now, you know, I love being able to kind of sit and look back at myself in the way that I changed and also family and growing up in general and the space that that allows me to kind of question um, the roles that gender and memory and family and life have had in my transformations. Um, and I'm also incredibly happy for it to be out in the public sphere and not just a personal thing that I can self reflect on because I want these questions to be asked by many different people.
And it's a huge undertaking. Just as I was watching it, the thought of all of the footage, the hard drives that you must have accumulated through this. How did both of you decide to want to keep going? It's hard to make any film, but it's hard to make a film spanning all these years. And what is it that kept you going to say, like, yes, we are going to make this film all the way to the end?
Mm.
Well, the process, honestly, for a good portion of the years was really just us living and filming. And because I've had a camera with me my whole life, it was a process that really began unintentionally, much more like home movies, without uh, a project in mind. So the actual making of the film in a more intentional way came together in the last several years when we were intentionally making meaning from the archives, essentially, and sitting down together and editing and looking back and working with Adam really as an adult. Um, uh, and the the process within obviously kept changing and growing because as Adam matured, he became more interested in taking on, doing filming himself, writing music.
Mm-hmm.
We had no idea how anything was going to um, happen until it was happening in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I just know, when we started to actually look at this footage and put together like a movie, um, I was very much thinking back on being a teenager and wanting to see stories about people who
Mm-hmm.
were exactly like me, basically, who were trans like me, to growing up in joy and having that story not just be them transitioning and not just be their struggle in transition, but also be just them growing up and their joy in growing up alongside all of the other themes. And so it was, I think, what kept me going in huge Zoom sessions where we would like go over every like single scene of hours of footage was just thinking that this was a story that we're lucky to have the footage for, because it's hard to find. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I know I needed deeply when I was younger. And so I would love to be able to contribute to that narrative.
Yeah. My favorite part of watching the passage of time, I mean, so many things, but as a movie lover, I loved seeing your movie posters change on your walls. Like you start with Jaws and then it ends up with
Yeah.
Lady Bird and Call Me by Your Name. I thought it's so intimate and so personal. And Adam, you talk about Superman as this definition of masculinity that really spoke to you as a kid. And I like, for some reason, also really loved Superman as a kid, also, and something about him. And so I'm curious if you feel like there's something specific to Superman that helped you process your masculinity. Or do you feel like it could have been any superhero costume that your parents got you and you would have felt the same way about it?
Well, there was definitely something specific about Superman, and it's kind of funny because it's also like it felt so integral to me, and it's hard to remember too at times because I was so young, and I don't even know entirely why it felt so integral to me when I was young, that image of masculinity. But I think, at the time, watching Superman movies, having the Superman suit and running around in it, I think that image represented both a way of being a very positive man in the world and being a
Mm-hmm.
very like masculine man in the world. And I wanted both. I mean, I was like 5, so it wasn't like I was thinking about it this deep, but it's like I wanted to be like a good man, a good boy, and I wanted to be taken seriously in my masculinity, and Superman is a uber masculine man, and so people look at them and like, he's a man, and I think I was very enthralled with that definition. And then that's what, as I grew, that's why that version of masculinity became more limiting for me, because it is a very traditional, cisgender male version of masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I, found myself, I still, it's hard not to like look at those versions of masculinity and be like, oh yes, man, manly man. But it's just not the only way to be, and it didn't match up with the way that I only wanted to be. It didn't leave room for all of the different possibilities of masculinity that I felt in myself. And so, yeah, it became something easy to hold on to, and then it became something that I was ready to kind of move past.
Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to both of you talking about the editing process because doing it over Zoom sounds like a bit of a nightmare, especially with all of the footage that you had. And your editor, Christina, how did you find her? What was that relationship like? Does she now feel like a part of the family because she's seen so much of what you guys
Oh
have lived
yeah,
through?
absolutely. I mean, she said she hasn't been to the house yet, but she's like, I know every room in that house. And it's true. I mean, working with Christina was amazing. She's an amazing editor. And, we did have hundreds of hours of footage. But we also, we identified pretty quickly the most important scenes that we wanted in the film, and then it was a very collaborative effort once like the first assembly was laid out. We would have Zoom sessions once every week or two with the whole team, with Adam and Christina and myself and our producer, Britt Fryer. And sometimes our story consultant, Carter Sickles, would hop on. And, we would talk through every scene in the film, sometimes for 8 or 10 hours. And then Christina would go back to the drawing board and create a new rough cut. And so it was unusual, I think, in an edit process because it was almost like editing by committee, and we would all kind of have our input. Because also Adam and I are very close to the material, and so we needed other people's eyes, and having Britt and Carter also on the team helped because then we also have two other trans men to give their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Christina also, I think one reason why I loved working with her was that she really respected and understood that I come from an artistic background. And so there were short sections like the that I call my motherhood archives, that would be the flashbacks to certain moments within the family, that I edited myself, and then she incorporated into. So she concentrated more on the verite, and I concentrated more on kind of the artistic moments, and so we had a wonderful collaboration.
Yeah. And I love the montage of all the shoes throughout the Adams childhood. I love that so much. So congratulations, both of you, on the film. I hope if you're in
Thank
Austin,
you.
our paths cross. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Well,
Thank
excellent
you.
meeting you, Tina. You take care. Thank you.